first time I think I met Robyn was when I was producing an REM record, and he loaned Peter Buck his guitar. And you've been to Australia with Peter Buck, right?
We've been in this very room, Peter and I and Scott and Bill, but you're right. No, you and I met in '85 when you were producing the album you produced in
Fables.
Fables, yeah, in Wood Green in London.
That's right.
Yeah,
Where the journey from Mayfair to Wood Green, evidently, I discovered later, depressed the group.
but they were pleased by the fact they could get a reasonably priced apartment in Mayfair. And the idea of having an apartment in Mayfair at all was pretty staggering.
For kids from Athens, Georgia.
And for me, as a reasonably elderly chap in North London, you know, the idea of being in Mayfair, boy.
But the real moment when I worked with Robyn, I mean, we got to know each other over the years, but I think it was the first time you could say that we actually worked together, was about 4 years ago. After Syd Barrett died, I was asked to help put together a memorial or just a tribute concert at the Barbican Theatre in London. And of course Robyn was, you know, the first name down on the team sheet. It was a very strange experience because I'd worked briefly with Syd in 1966, 67 when I got the Pink Floyd a deal with Polydor, and then the agency that they'd signed to kind of jumped in and said, oh, we can get you a better deal with EMI. And we made the Arnold Lane, and then Arnold Lane was licensed to EMI, and EMI signed them and said, oh, no, we're going to use our own in-house producers and in-house studios. So that was the end of I had a very brief career as Pink Floyd's producer. But my memories of that time were very vivid because they were the house band at UFO, the club that I started with John Hopkins. And it became the kind of hub of the underground scene in 66 and 67 in London. And looking back on it, it's clear that, you know, there was a lot of great energy around and a lot of great things there, but Syd Barrett's songs as the foundation of the soundtrack of that whole year was just such a key part. It was just so essential. I can't imagine, I think the whole scene there, the whole movement that we call the underground psychedelic scene in London wouldn't have meant very much without those songs of Syd's. And I hadn't listened to them in so many years, because when he came out with that, I mean, Piper at the Gates of Dawn and some of the songs he did were a little painful for me to listen to, because I thought, oh, I wanted to be the guy producing that record. And then he made those two solo records, and the Syd that you hear on those records sounds so damaged and so wounded, and that it was kind of painful for me to listen to. And I really didn't listen to them forever. You know, I listened to them once when they came out and put them away. And then, right after he died, Radio 4 did a little documentary, and they played a recording of an interview that he did in the spring of 67 when Pink Floyd were scheduled to play the first concert by a pop group at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, which was formerly a classical place in London. And this classical music reviewer was very upset about this and interviewed, cross-examined Syd on air. And he was a German guy who'd gotten this position, and I can't remember his name, but he said, "But why must it be so loud?" And Syd just handled him so beautifully. He was like born to be a radio person. You know, he was so well spoken and so articulate and so gentle with this guy and explaining everything. And that voice came to me over the air, and I said, oh my God, that's Syd. That's what he was like. That's what he sounded like. It's not this kind of damaged acid casualty voice that you hear on the outtakes, you know, the sort of talkback mic on the records that they put out. And so the whole process of going through this, putting together this show was very moving for me, because I had to listen to all of his songs again and realize just how extraordinary, great songwriter Syd Barrett was. And we approached the Floyd at the beginning of this process and said, hey, guys, we're just going to put this show on, and, if you'd like to be involved, it would be nice. Yeah, well, we love what you're doing. It's great. Do it. But, no, we won't be taking part. And but we would call them up. We'd call up Dave Gilmour every couple of weeks and just say, well, Chrissie Hynde's doing it, and Damon Albarn's doing it, and Kate McGarrigle and Martha Wainwright are going to do See Emily Play. And they did. And Martha later recorded it on one of her records. And Captain Sensible was there. Mike Herron was there. Robyn Hitchcock was there. Nick Laird-Clues from Dream Academy was there. In fact, he was a key sort of part helping me to organize it. And we just kept them informed of all of this. And then the night before the show, at 6 o'clock in the evening, I got a call from Roger Waters' manager saying, Roger was thinking he might come down and sing a song. And I said, great. And he said, but he's got to be out of there at 9:15 because he's got to pick his girlfriend up at the airport. Okay, he can close the first half. So, okay, we got somebody to close the first half. And then we were having the sound check the following afternoon. And when you're down in the Barbican, it's very deep in the earth, and your cell phones don't work. And I would occasionally, just in this kind of hopeful fantasy, wander up to the ground floor just to see if there was a message, And one of these times, the phone rang. Floyd. We were thinking, they were thinking they might come down and sing Arnold Lane at the end. How about that? Yeah, that would be fine. And nobody knew. The place was sold out. Nobody had the faintest idea that they were in the house. And Roger, of course, rather blotted his copybook by coming in and singing one of his own songs instead of one of Sid's. And then we had this wonderful second half, and I got to go out at the very after Chrissie Hynde had sung 2 songs, and go out and thank everybody, all the lighting people, and because we had people from UFO who came to do the lighting shows. And then I said, and to close the show, a song very dear to my heart because, I was involved in the production, Arnold Lane, and to sing it, Dave, Rick, Nick, Pink Floyd. And I literally was knocked back onto my heels by this roar and the whole place rising to their feet. And I got the feeling of what it might be like to be an arena rock star, It was a pretty great feeling. Anyway, that was, in a way, it was a sort of model for the kind of things we're doing with Way to Blue, and and it's interesting the way this, I don't know what it is about this, whatever it is that you can call it, that started in the 60s with, you could say, if you were going to be, dispassionate about it, it was middle-class people invading the popular music world, led by Bob Dylan and Mick Jagger. But whatever it is, it's developed a canon, and people are looking back at it and looking at it like classical music almost, and how many different ways can you do it. And the tribute to Sid was a wonderful experience for me, and doing these tributes to Nick has been a wonderful experience. And working with Robyn has been a wonderful experience. And we're going to finish off with Sid.